Thank you very much, Tony, and it's a great, great honor to be among you and to come back to this very special gathering of very special friends. And I see many here around this room. You're right, Tony, this is not the first participation in the Britain-Palestine Friendship and Twinning Network. And allow me to thank all of my friends, Tony, and Vincent, and Karen, and all the people who have been behind this very important, very significant, and impactful efforts. It's been 44 years, my friends, since the Dundee and Nablus became the first British and Palestinian cities to twin, and paving the way since then for tens of British cities and Palestinian cities to be twinned. I've seen Camden here, and I know the love Camden has for Abu Dis, and many of you, Glasgow and Bethlehem, and many others. I don't think back then anyone could have predicted, 44 years ago, anyone could have predicted how long of a journey this was going to be. And I don't think that anyone would have thought that more than 4 decades on, we are here today talking about genocide. But here we are. The flip side of that, of course, is here we still are. Still affirming friendship, still affirming solidarity, and hopefully this year we will see more cities across the UK twinning with counterparts in Palestine. We have been approached by many. And I will not break many secrets, but the big ones. And just judging from the massive and heartwarming shows of solidarity and support from right across the UK, over the past 6 months, I imagine there will be a lot of interest from people all over the country to twin with Palestinian cities. I have to tell you, my friends, the outpouring of support from British citizens in the past 6 months has been truly extraordinary. London, the UK, have become the epicenter of global solidarity. People have come from everywhere, from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, all colors, all religions, all persuasions. It was a scene of unity, of diversity. And they have come again and again and again. The consistency, sustainability, the determination. And they and you have had real impact. Make no mistake, real impact. Let there be no doubt about it. You and the millions who have taken to the streets for so long have put you politicians on notice. Genocide and complicity with genocide is simply not acceptable. There is not a single member of parliament, and I spend a lot of time in parliament, there is not single one member of parliament that does not know the depth of feelings and anger among the vast majority of the people of this country. This is because of you and the many, many people like you. This is incredibly important at this, one of the darkest moments in Palestinian, and I may add, in human history. So my friends, we all know the appalling statistics from Gaza, and I know you've heard a very moving talk by my good friend Samir here, representing MAB. You know the numbers. But numbers can have a numbing effect. Numbing effect. And the fear is, after a point, they become almost meaningless. Did you know, for instance, that only in the last in the last 24 hours, that is Thursday to Friday, this very week, Israel killed 42 people in Gaza and injured 63. This is no longer merits even passing comments in the British media and international media. And compared, of course, to the over 34,000 people killed, murdered over the past 6 months, it may seem small number. But these are 42 families in mourning. These are 63 new patients in need of health care that simply does not exist anymore in Gaza. And this is every day. You may not hear about it so much, in part because Israel does not allow international journalists to enter Gaza. And in part because international media have decided to ignore the many reports from our many courageous Palestinian journalists in Gaza who have risked their lives to tell their stories. Nearly 100 Palestinian journalists have been murdered in the last 6 months. 100. Not to mention their families, by the way. Like that prominent Palestinian journalist, Wael al-Dahdouh, who they tried to silence him by killing his wife and his children. And it is not just Gaza, my friends. It is not just Gaza. In the West Bank on Friday, yesterday, Israel raided Nur Shams refugee camp in Tulkarem. They destroyed buildings, infrastructure. They killed a child, Qais Nasrallah, just 16 years old. He is one of more than 110 children, Palestinian children, killed in the West Bank since October the 7th. In the West Bank only. He is one of more than 14,500 Palestinian children murdered across Palestine in the past 6.5 months. There is a reason, my friends, a reason. The Lemkin Institute for Genocide Studies this week issued an active genocide alert that Israel is committing genocide across Palestine, not just in Gaza. Look at what is happening in the Armenian Quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. People are being evicted from their homes. Settlers and Israeli police are intimidating and beating locals in this 1,600-year-old neighborhood. 1,600-year-old neighborhood. And detaining renowned and outspoken academics, professors like Nadira Shalhoub, who is a professor of Hebrew University. And she was arrested last week, if you have followed, a Palestinian Armenian in Jerusalem. Whole villages have been depopulated in the West Bank in the past months, entire villages. Thousands have been forcibly displaced, along with the 1.9 million displaced in Gaza. So it is not just Gaza. The same happening all over occupied Palestine. Thousands more have been detained without charge or trial in Gaza and in the West Bank. Thousands. No charge, no trial. Many of them are children. So packed have Israeli prisons become now, so crowded, that the Israeli Public Security Minister, the racist Itamar Ben-Gvir, is proposing bringing in the death penalty to solve the overcrowding. These are the actions and statements of a state and a political echelon that is increasingly and violently racist. These are the actions of a rogue state. Rogue state. And it is a rogue state that understands that numbers can have a numbing effect. It is a rogue state that understands that numbers can have a numbing effect. If they go too high, if they kill too many, they lose their impact, their ability to shock, to move, to mobilize. But they do tell a story. And the story they tell in Palestine is a story of genocide. What is happening is undoubtedly genocide. So my friends, we have to repeat that story. It cannot be told enough. It must be told until it can no longer be ignored. Until the British government can no longer have its cake and eat it too by pretending to support a two-state solution and then not support it in the UN only this last week. It must be told until the pressure on the British government to stop its complicity with Israel's genocide. Until indeed the British government understands that its failure to take action in support of its own policies that clearly mark settlements and occupation as illegal. This is the British policy. This is the UK official policy, that the occupation and the settlements are illegal. And these inconsistent policies, contradictory policies, is no longer acceptable. What kind of British government allows itself to be manipulated into a position in which its ally, the rogue state of Israel, gives it two choices? Either it drags the UK and the US and the rest of the West into a regional war, or maybe even a global war. Remember what happened last week in Iran? That's the first choice, or the second choice is genocide. These are the choices presented to the UK government and the US administration. And guess what, my friends? Guess what? I've seen reports that actually the US and Israel's allies are hinting, and these are reports, not confirmed, hinting that in exchange of Israel not hitting back hard on Iran, Israel will be allowed to invade Rafah and continue the genocide. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean for countries like the US and the UK? Number one, it means that they can no longer control this rogue state of Israel except by allowing it to mass murder Palestinians. They cannot control it except if they enable it to commit genocide. Number two, it means sheer prejudice, hatred, racism, that Palestinian blood does not matter, that our lives do not matter, that it is a cheap price to contain Israel. Kill more, kill another 30,000 children, destroy more schools and more hospitals, make Gaza lifeless. Just don't go into a regional war. Where is the tradition of law that Britain is proud of? The rule of law. Where is the independence of thought and action? Where is the love of liberty? Where is the backbone? This British government is even trying to enact a boycott bill, the anti-boycott bill, that would make it illegal for you and for cities and councils around the country to take their own ethical decision about who to invest with and who to buy from. Can no longer decide if this illegal colonial settlement right in the heart of the West Bank, you can decide if you can invest in or not. Unthinkable what is happening. Unthinkable. Does this not mean that the British political echelon's support for Israel comes at the price of the freedom of the British citizens? Of you? Why is this allowed to carry on? How much longer? It seems clear that the current constellation of powers on their own will not accord shift in policy significantly. It will not lead a change. But when change won't come from the top, when change won't come from rational argument, from morality, legality, principles, values, when change doesn't come from all that, when change won't come from the compliance and respect for international law, then change must come from the local government, from the civil society, from the grassroots, from the people. It must come from you. It must come from you. And it must come from initiatives like yours, like this, Tony. It is precisely through people-to-people contacts that, enabled by initiatives like city twinings, that we deepen our understanding and respect for each other. These are valuable efforts at demystifying the other and broadening our understanding of the world and the glorious variety of people in it. You know, I was with a very influential group of, I'm going off script here, British sort of business community, etc., only a couple of days ago. It makes countries like the UK, the US, many other European countries, Germany, what have you. What is it that makes them being able to be dragged into this immoral orbits of, what is it? And I offered them few explanations. They didn't accept it. The one thing they accepted was one word: prejudice. It's prejudice about the other. Prejudice about the Palestinians, you know, the Middle East, the Muslims, even the Christian Palestinians. And this is exactly why twinship and friendship is so crucial, because it demystifies the other, it links with the other on equal footing. It knows the other. Because we share our culture, our businesses, our cooking. We have good cooking, by the way. Our hobbies and our poetry. What better way to get to know each other? And of course, twinning cities have a host of other benefits, from economic relations, union collaboration, to education exchange, and we need so much of that. All of these are going to be more important than ever in Palestine and in Gaza, of course. The devastation in Gaza has been comprehensive. All sectors need rebuilding, and we will rebuild Gaza. I've been saying this a long way. This is not the first time we are subjected to a hurricane by Israel. We've gone through it before. We know how to recover. But we need your help in rebuilding. The health sector has been decimated, Samir. Israel has engaged in an edicide in Gaza, destroying 75% of the territory's schooling and school buildings, and all of Gaza's universities, all of them. Scholars suggest it could take 10 to 20 years for us to rebuild all this. That means potentially a lost generation. Twin cities could provide a solution. Number one is distant learning, and we need it now. My friends, distant learning programs, for instance, to help bridge a gap while we recover and build, because there will be some time until we are able to. So please talk to your cities, to your councillors, to immediately engage in extending creative ideas of providing the Palestinians with the one most important lifeline, lifeblood, that is education. Well, I have grown on the mantra of education, education, education. And it's an important mantra in Palestine. That's how we were able to withstand, survive, steadfast, recover, rise. And my alma mater, that is Birzeit University in the West Bank, is already establishing a distant learning project to mitigate Israel's destruction, rekindling initiative. And I'm so proud of Birzeit. But there is already an infrastructure to provide that sort of makeshift education until we are able to rebuild. These are the kinds of projects that can make a real, immediate, and tangible impact and be mutually beneficial for cities engaging in them. But also in the health sector, and I see many doctors here, and I know many of you have been already to Palestine. We also need cities here in the UK, councils, to engage with our hospitals and our doctors and to do the same. And there is a lot of, Britain has set itself aside in the last 6 months, not only in it being the epicenter of activism and demos and, and protests, but also of medical support. I think Britain has really been exceptional in that. British doctors have been to Gaza. I think you were the first, Samir, to be in Gaza and most sustained, and you have people now on the ground, and I know many of them, my good friends, and you are going very soon. But we also need to do much more sustained work between various cities in the health sector. I did say at the beginning of my remarks that the outpouring of support in Britain for Palestine has been extraordinary. Perhaps the greatest impact has not been political, but human. And believe you me, it is way more important than political. At this point in time, nothing the Palestinians need to know more than they are not alone. They are not alone. And they are equal. And they have the love and the support of people worldwide, particularly in Britain. You know why? Because Palestinians know that their agony, their suffering, their issue started here, in this city, in this country. The Balfour Declaration that promised our land without consulting us, that colonial arrogance that turned us from the native original population, people who have lived on our land for millennia, the birthplace of Christianity, the most sacred place for all religions, the hub between East and West. They turned us into non-Jewish minorities. So to see this level of solidarity in the country of Balfour is very important, very significant, very historic. When people in Gaza see, as they do, and all over Palestine, when they are lucky enough to be able to access the internet, and they do sometimes, and when they see the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions taking to the streets in their name, in their protection, in some distant foreign cities all over the world, but particularly in the UK, it brings one very simple thing: hope. And believe you me, hope is important. Hope is all what it takes to survive, to rise, to recover, and to continue. When whole communities reach out, which is what twinning essentially means, it's a community-to-community relationship. When communities reach out, it essentially means that we will go through it together. This is not just the Palestinians. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. And our struggle is not ours alone. That's the message. This is invaluable to us, my friends. It is also accurate, very accurate, because our struggle is not just about Palestine. And I mean it. The Palestinian people have been struggling for 76 years at least, actually for 100 years since the Balfour Declaration. But this isn't just about us. It is about much, much more. It is about fairness. It is about law. It is about justice. It is ultimately about us all. So, my friends, your efforts and your solidarity are vital. They are vital in the political struggle for change. And they are vital on the human level. They are a source of comfort, hope, and strength for a people who have suffered far too much for far too long. They are also empowering. They prove that however bleak these moments are, However unequal the conditions of life, people, ordinary people, people from all over corners of the earth, when they unite around a common purpose, they can move mountains. They can achieve the unimaginable. And they can change the course of history. I truly believe we are at one of these moments. I do believe we are there, at that moment. Similar to the anti-apartheid movement. This is our moment, like the anti-apartheid movement moment. And remember one thing, also London and the UK was the epicenter of the anti-apartheid movement. I truly believe we have witnessed the birth of a global movement for justice that may be about Palestine now, but it is about all of us in the end. And it fills me with hope. It should fill you with hope. It fills me with hope that there is such a thing as shared humanity. And that is shared humanity is precious to us all. Because if we are able to recognize ourselves in everyone else's eyes, we are capable of realizing that we are all equal. And all equal, and all of us are equally deserving of justice and equality under law. And that, my friends, is what the Palestinian struggle is all about. Equality before the law. This is, to sum up our story, our struggle, who we are for the last century. It is equality under law, equality of justice, and being treated as equal like all other nations. And therefore, my friends, this is a calling on us all to take action, be unafraid and uncowed, be determined, unstoppable, be unapologetic until your leaders will have no choice but to listen. But to listen. Like they did with South Africa, with apartheid South Africa. By the way, the Thatcher government or the Reagan administration was not really where you were in the 80s. You made them listen. And then the apartheid regime collapsed. Like sanctions and an arms embargo on Israel, to stop a patent injustice. Together we can, I think, and I believe we can, and we will secure liberation for Palestine, peace in our region, and the equal application of international law and human rights law for all. I believe we can. Thank you.